Okay, as James said, I am a documentary filmmaker. I'm not a public speaker, and this will be the first time that I've done this. But really, what I wanted to ask first, how many people have heard of the straw man or legal fiction? Okay. How many people out of you lot fundamentally understand what it is? Or you think you fundamentally understand? Okay. So it's going to be a learning curve for some of you. The thing I want to talk, the documentary is called Straw Man, Nature of the Cage. And the reason why it's called The Nature of the Cage is that you need to know that you're inside a cage before you can break out of it. Like you need to know you're inside of a prison before you can break out of the prison. And it's sad, but fundamentally what my research has found is that we are all in a cage and we're all fundamentally prisoners in an island called the UK. So really, I'm a visual person, and we've only got 20 minutes. So what I've done is a little video that's online, and it's called Meet Your Straw Man. It's about 4 minutes long. We're going to watch that video really quickly because it can get the point across efficiently, more efficiently than I can in 20 minutes. Then what I'll do is a quick summary after it, and then we'll try and have about 10 minutes of questions and answers. Okay? So I've just been told that all I've got to do is press play. And by the way, this video is by Paul Davies and Kurt Rutter. Let's just...
Ah, the government. It loves you and wants to keep you safe and well. It even wants to make paying taxes, fines, and court costs easier for you. How? Well, you'll need to meet your straw man. He was born the same day you were. He looks like you, has the same name, and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even paid his parking tickets or taxes. The worst part? He's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate, a legal personality, or legal fiction, is created with the same name to confuse little old you into thinking it's you. So, there is a human you and a paper you, or as it's commonly known, a straw man. So when it seems like government officials, court clerks, or the police are speaking English, they aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to make you agree to verbal and written contracts without even knowing about it, all spun from Black's Law Dictionary. For example, when the police say, "Do you understand?" you'll say, "Yes." What they are really saying is, "Do you stand under our authority?" Oops-a-daisy, you just created a verbal contract with them. Oh, you clever government. Did you know that whenever you register something, you are handing over title to the person you register it with? That's right. Whenever you register something with the government, they assume it belongs to them. Registered your car? Super! Now you are the registered keeper of your vehicle, and the government can crush it when you don't pay your, straw man's taxes. Expecting a new bundle of joy? Well then you need to register your little darling with a birth certificate. Then they can start the process all over again and create a new straw man for your little one. Isn't that great? So when Junior grows up, he'll be able to generate revenue just like you have. When you notify on your baby by signing the birth certificate, your child becomes a ward of state. And if the government doesn't like what you're doing, they'll assume it's okay to take the child away or make new rules for things they don't like. Not enough school? Smacking your child? Shouting too loudly? Then it's off to social services for the little one. When you get a bill, it's sent to you, but belongs to your straw man, not you. That's why bills, fines, and summons start with Mr., Mrs., or Ms. Sometimes you'll see your surname in capitals, just like on a gravestone. That's because your straw man is dead, and just a silly piece of paper, created before you could comprehend or even consent to it. When you go to court, you represent your straw man, so you, the human, take on any costs, fees, taxes, and fines involved for the straw man. The human you doesn't even need to pay them. But you made a contract with the court by appearing on behalf of your legal personality or straw man, just like the government knew you would. Confused? Well, don't worry. The government doesn't want you to know anyway. If you knew, you'd stop paying things like council tax and parking tickets. Because when you go to court, you are representing your straw man. You are you, alive and made of flesh and blood. Your straw man or legal personality is a piece of paper created from your birth certificate. And you think it's you. What a silly Billy. Would you like to know more? Well, then go over to tpuc.org. Get up, get informed, and get real.
Okay, now that video is about 4 minutes long, and that can get the message across a lot quicker than I can. What I'm going to do now is just sort of summarize on this video. The reason that a legal fiction is created is because the legal system cannot deal with human beings. It can only deal with bits of paper. So there's a fundamental difference here. There's the law, which comes from God. Okay, well, I'm atheist, but this is what happens. The law comes from God. And so that's things like, you can't harm anybody, you can't, kill someone. Everyone knows what the law is fundamentally. It's harm, injury, or loss when you sort of sum it up. And human beings are brought into the lawful system because they are under God, okay? That's why when you go to court, you swear on a Bible, and it's all very religious. Whereas the legal system is created by man, okay? And man can never, ever be the legal system can never, ever be above man. Does that make sense? Okay, so law comes from God because we all fundamentally understand what the law is. Okay, the legal system is bits of paper. So what happens is that when you are born, a birth certificate is created, then your parents register you, and when you're registered, it's almost the same as registering a company. So what they do is they use block capital letters, and that's called capitis denominis maximus, which is it basically removes all legal standing. So what they've done is they've taken your name, which should be, my name's John Webster, so it should be a capital J-O-H-N in lowercase, then Webster the same. You can almost put in front of it John from the family of Webster. Sorry, I'm not a great talker. But yeah, so what they did was your parents went away and they registered you at birth. And when they did that, they essentially created a company, okay? It's the same as registering a limited company. Now, my company is called Patient Zero Productions Limited, okay? Now, no matter what happens to that company, if it goes into debt, if I run up big bills, if I fall out with someone, that can only affect the company. It cannot affect me, the human being. Because if you understand what limited means, it's limited liability. It takes away all earnest from you, all right, to have any sort of standing with that. So it's exactly the same with your straw man. Okay, they created a business at your birth, identified by Mr., Mrs., or block capital letters. And if you've got credit cards on you or your driver's license, and you take it out and look at it now, you will see that your name will be in block capital letters. That is not you. That is your company that was created so you could enter into the legal system. Okay, now the reason I'm making a documentary about this is because I'm all about freedom. And everyone needs to know that we're all free, that we're human beings, and that we're caught up in a game called society, okay? And the thing is, we were tricked at birth when we had no idea what was going on. Our parents were tricked to sign us over to the government. And you know this to be true because the government can come and take your child away at any point and say, that's our, you can't look after your child, we're going to take your child away. Now, if you don't register your child, believe it or not, that would be kidnapping, and the government cannot do it. It's true, it would be kidnapping. The same way if you don't register your car with a DVLA. When you register your car with a DVLA, you're giving a bit of paper back, and it says you're the registered keeper, not the registered owner, because the government now own your car through trickery, through word manipulation, through legalese, and so on. Now, if you fundamentally understand that about your car, you must understand it is exactly the same for us. Exactly the same. Okay? But what you can do is once you've seen a video like this and you've listened to me stutter on a little bit, and you look into this more, you go online, you research it, you will realize that you were conned from day one. And this is not internet mythology. This is not someone's making it up. There is a website at the moment called ReasonWiki. So if you type in straw man or legal fiction, one of the first sites that come up will be ReasonWiki, and it will tell you it's all rubbish. Okay? Now, this is the first bit of combat that the American government are having back on this. Now, I will tell you the truth. This fundamentally 100% is the truth because I've done it myself. I've got myself out £30,000 worth of debt, right, by using a system that I've learned over the last 3 years. Just by sending letters, nothing more, 3 letters. And I've got banks and other organizations to send me letters back saying your account is now closed, we are no longer dealing with you. Now, this goes into something a little bit separate, and how much time have I got? Okay, this goes into something a little bit separate. You want to know more? Okay, all right, 1 second. Right, first off, there's a website called getoutdebtfree.org, run by a guy called John Ritterick, who I've interviewed. He, in the last 2 years, has saved people £10.5 million. £10.5 million. It's on his website, and that's just the people who've reported it to him. Okay? Now, the way you can get out of debt is, I mean, I know other people talked about money and money trustees, but money's fake. Fiat currency is not real. Okay? It's backed by nothing. Okay? So when you go into a bank and you get a loan, quick question here. When you go into a bank and say you're not getting a secure loan, you just get a loan, say £1,000, what's the one thing that they ask you for? Signature. That's it. Your signature. Nothing more. That's enough to secure your £1,000, yes? ID as well. Or ID. So, but to get the loan, you will sign it, okay? And again, this is why I'm a bit grey on this, but this is how I understand it. Banks cannot create money. Human beings create money. And when you walk into the bank and you ask for this loan, okay, you are creating the money and not the bank. And the bank cons you into thinking that you are borrowing the money from them. But that's not the key. The key is the legitimacy of a contract. Okay? When you go to a bank and you borrow money, what you're essentially doing is that you're saying, I'll borrow £1,000, okay? And I will pay you back with my labor. I will work for however long it takes to pay you back. Now, that's worth something. That's got a worth. What the bank does is it quite literally goes, there's £1,000, you have it. They take it out of thin air. It's created out of nowhere, okay? Out of nowhere. So if you were to look at the legitimacy of a contract, they have to have equal worth, and also they have to be signed, countersigned by the same entity. So i.e., I'm a human being, so for me to have a contract with any of you guys, it has to be with a human you. And that's a legal contract, and then legitimacy is done between the two of us. If it's done you can't have a contract between me and a bank, because that's a dead entity and a human being, okay? But what you could have is a contract between a bank and a bank, or a company and a company. So it has to be that way. So the contracts that you get from a bank are between you and a bank. So first off, it's not legitimate. Secondly, they didn't put up equal worth, i.e., they didn't go down to their reserves and say, well, we got this money and we earned it, and we're going to take this money and we're going to lend it to you. They didn't do that. They fundamentally didn't do that. They quite literally created the money out of thin air. Okay? So the contract is illegitimate. Secondly, they take the contract and they monetize the contract. So what they do is they say, okay, it's £1,000, and because of the fractional reserve system, they can take that contract and they can put it into their vaults, and they can say, okay, this is, we've now got £1,000, no money's exchanged hands yet, okay? Because of the fractional reserve, it's about 8 times, but let's put it at 10 times. They can now lend £10,000 on that £1,000. So they've got their money back and then some. And because they've monetized the contract can never be brought back out again. The same with your mortgage on your house. Nobody can get that contract and never present it back to you with the wet signatures on it because they've monetized it. And that's their first big mistake. So what you can do is you can send a letter, right? And you can say, I would like my original contract, or a copy of my original contract even, and they cannot supply it. Secondly, there's a thing called the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, which is still in effect today. And the Bills of Exchange Act says that you're only legally obliged to pay an invoice, or a bill. It actually says a bill, and it says a true bill in the Act, but an invoice is exactly the same. Now, a bank cannot supply you with an invoice. And it's a really easy test. If you've got a credit card, phone your bank up and say, look, I want to pay my credit card off. Can you send me an invoice? The woman on the other end of the phone will say to you, I cannot send you an invoice. I can send you a statement. Now, what can you do with a statement? You know, I run a business. I can't put statements in and say, oh, that's an invoice. You know, I can't do that. So if you look at the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, it states if they cannot supply a contract and they cannot supply an invoice, then you don't have to pay it. Simple as that. Because at the end of the day, if I walked up to you in the street and I said, you owe me £10,000, right? You owe me 10 grand, what's the first thing you're going to say to me? How? When did that happen? How do I owe you 10 grand, right? And what we've forgotten as people is that we have that right to ask that at any point, even when you know, right? You know that you borrowed this money and you've done the deal, but you have that fundamental right to say to them, well, I will pay you when you prove it, when you prove that I owe you this money. Now, the thing is that banks, hire companies, anyone that deals with the creation of money cannot prove it to the extent that you need to be proving it, which is an invoice, which is, a countersigned contract. They can't supply these things. So the reason they cannot supply these things. So what I did was send 3 letters. The first letter basically asks for all these things, and I gave them 14 days. Then after 14 days, I heard nothing, so I send another letter, and you say, oh, you still haven't got back to me. Okay, but I'm quite fair. I'll give you another 14 days. Okay. Then with the third letter, I say to him, look, you haven't answered any of this stuff, all right? At all. You haven't answered any of my questions. You haven't got back to me about anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to give you another 14 days. But if you don't get back to me at the end of these 14 days, and I just write what I want to write, because you've got to remember, a business has no more rights, like a bank or anything, than you. They send you letters demanding, saying, give us this money, we'll send people around your house. You can do exactly the same. You can send them a letter saying, stop sending me letters, stop doing this. Like that. You can. You fundamentally can. And you can give them time limits as well, like they give with you. So I say to them, all right, if you don't, let me remember this, it's called a tacit contract. And what that means is that through them not replying to you or not giving you an answer, they're actually agreeing to your terms. And so my terms are, I do not owe you any money anymore, right? I don't think the debt ever existed in the first place. And please send me a letter stating that my account is now closed because you can't prove any of these things. Now, the way you win these things is not always by getting that letter back saying, yes, we've closed your account. The way you win this is when you send these 3 letters, they cannot take you to court. Because the first thing a judge will say is that this is a dispute. Yes? There's a dispute. Okay, what is the dispute? Right, you are saying that this guy owes you money. Okay, but he's giving you certain terms. What are these terms? And then what the judge will do is he'll look at it. It'll never go this far anyway, trust me, right? But the judge will look at it and go, all right, he's asked for the Bills of Exchange Act. Look at the Bills of Exchange Act. Okay, what he's asking for is correct. Why can't you supply this? Right? Now, everyone, when it gets to the top level of the banks, they know this. Okay? So it's never going to go to court. So all I'm doing when I'm writing these letters and when I'm having this little battle with the banks is that I'm stopping myself from ever going to court. And I've never gone to court. And I've done it with about 7 or 8 organizations. Now, I just want to say something. How much time have I got? I just want to say something on the end of this, which is I didn't enter into this. I didn't go, I'm going to go and screw the banks. Right? That wasn't my incentive. My incentive was that when my last business shut down, I had a number of people that I owed money to and I had directors guarantors. So I thought, I knew this information, but I thought I'll call them up and I'll say to them, look, can you give me a payment break? And if you give me a payment break a couple of months, I'll continue paying you. And my decision was, whoever didn't give me a payment break, I'll try this technique. And I think out of 8 of them, 7 of them said no. So that's why I did it. And the reason why I'm making the documentary is that in the Daily Mail, but it's only one place I could get this resource. The Daily Mail showed the other day that the suicide rates between 33-year-olds and 50-year-old men is going through the ceiling. And it can be directly related to debt. People are losing their houses when they don't have to. I could show you a video, right, where there is the police, where there is bailiffs, and they're coming to a house that's gone through the court, it's getting repossessed and everything. But in the law, it states you cannot take the house by force, and if someone is at the front peacefully demonstrating, you cannot use violence against them. And these people are out, 3 people in the front garden, one knows the law very well, and after half an hour, there is about 8 or 9 policemen. He gets the police to get the bailiffs and remove them from the property. And I watched that video. I mean, I've just come back from LA and I'm a bit jet lagged, but I watched that video before I went away, and it made things like this. I don't know. They make me excited because I think people are out there and they're winning, and it's going to put presidents in court as well. In America, there already is presidents in court for this very thing. A guy proved that the banks didn't create any money, that they had no equal contract, and he proved in court that he didn't have to pay his mortgage. And I don't know why to this day, people aren't jumping on it. But just to finalize up very, very quickly, is that I'm not teaching this for it to be abused. I'm not saying go out and borrow money, which would be fine anyway, because you must understand the banks get 10 times the amount of that money back anyway, as soon as you get that loan. I'm just saying that if you get into a situation where you owe money to a bank, to a debtor, to whoever it is, there is another way out. And the other way out is to realize that there's two of you. There's the human you, right? And there's the paper you. And at any point, you can stand back from the paper you and say, just like a company, nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. Thank you very much.